Hello, everybody. Sorry, man, Ontario and the internet. We're on page 3 here of the Atlantic Charter, signed and ratified by both Sir Winston Churchill and Teddy Roosevelt, President of the United States. So, I'll let everybody get a second. Sorry, everybody, I turned the data off. Gonna go at this again. I hope it works out. Oh man, I get so mad. There's things that bug me about Ontario, especially this Toronto area. How is that even possible? Terrible, terrible government. That's how possible. They sure keep people down here in Ontario. That's a fact. High housing, crap internet. They don't want people to learn anything. That's how I feel. Giant Canadian flags everywhere, but it's pretty sick, really. Pretty sick. So yeah, we'll give it a minute to let everybody catch up. We're climbing. We're up to quite a few people watching too. I feel terrible. And it really is sad because it wrecks my video and it upsets me. So, last thing we ended off with on page 3 of the Atlantic Charter, signed and ratified, where King George, as he read the 2 letters, transmitted his power, just as the Emperor did for Nazi Germany, and that led to 1933 Chancellor Hitler. So, Sir Winston Churchill's just gotten the crown power from none other than King George VI, Queen Elizabeth's father. He's agreeing to all USA and Russia's terms. This part is the Atlantic Charter with USA and UK. UK also has a presentation with Russia, Joseph Stalin. We're going to get into that after. So first, their countries seek no aggrandizement. Look up that word. That means no expansion, 0. That's the end of colonialism. First and foremost, colonialism is over. We talked about UK as it is today. 5 countries, all separate UN states. Unfortunately, at this time of the world, that wasn't the way it was for Ireland and its portion of Northern Ireland. Not even close. Second, they desire to see no territorial changes that do not accord with the freely expressed wishes of the people concerned. First Nations. Does that sound like something that was presented to you in 1941 by your Canadian government? Was that something that the Crown was shared with you? Did your government let you know about this? No, they didn't. Third, they respect the right of all peoples to choose the form of government under which they will live. And they wish to see sovereign rights and self-government restored to those who have been forcibly deprived of them. Canadians, First Nations, 1941. Does this sound like something that's been passed to you? Does it? No. That's because Liberals, Conservatives, and then on to NDP, as well as Bloc, and every party you've ever had in Canada has never wanted any of this bestowed to you. They took the crown for themselves. They took it. When UK ended it, and ended it good, they had many, they had 85 colonial of their empire to go through for independence. They reached Canada 11 years later. King George VI died finalizing Canada. This, in 1941, King George was sent out and he kept his word. And he went around making everybody independent, ending UK colonialism in every country. Unfortunately, he didn't know constitutionalism. Poor African nations, poor New Zealand, poor Australia, poor Canada. They just took the crown from King George and said, boop, thanks, idiot. We're not going to share any of this that you laid out. You died anyway, son of a bitch. We're going to steal it for ourselves. We're now the monarchy. Today, every Canadian and First Nations, you are under a colonial government, whomever you elect. It even gets worse in the division of powers of the provinces, where there's absolutely no constitutions. This is how Hitler did it, everybody. This is how he did it. This is also how every single country, former colonial, is going through its huge atrocities. The exact same atrocity genocides committed right here in Canada. Raping children, making them suck their penises from the age of 3 and up, tearing them apart, letting them bleed out, bashing their heads in if they don't give them a blowjob. Men and women against boys and girls, both sexes. Does that sound like any kind of humanity? I have, which we're going to go through, all the government documents out of the acts, out of the Indian Act, that give the ministerial power to both provinces and the federal government to enact this. We're going to go through it. Now, Canada got rid of the last 2 clauses in 1988. Quick, hide those. We don't want the world to see them. Thankfully, I'm presenting those in their original to you all today, pre-1988. Doesn't matter, because the first 2 clauses that are still in the Indian Act today, A and B, are 100% illegal. But we're going to get back to all of that, because this is important. Fourth, they will endeavor, with the respect of their existing obligations, to further the enjoyment by all states, great or small. This is the building blocks of the UN. It just hasn't been rolled out yet. USA saying, here is the new United Nations. And Russia, Soviet Union are like, this is the new UN. Now we'll come bail you guys out. We'll save the world. But you colonials are all finished. Doesn't matter, ally or axis. Agreed to this, and you can be a part of that new world or face the atomic bomb, which Japan said, go do your worst. So everybody throwing USA under the bus, Japan said, screw you, do your damnedest. And so USA did. And if you don't believe it, there is more from the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, Russia. I have monumental works on the absolute fight with Japan. As big as it was, and we look at some of the naval battles that were epic and a turning point in the war, had it gone the other way, it may have wiped out USA. But USSR has far more. We just don't have that history in the West. I will be providing all of that for all of you. Soviet Union former went toe-to-toe with Japan and helped finish that off. And USA still had to throw the bombs. Russia can say what they like today. Russia and USA will never get along as they fight for their narratives in this world. But they're both very good countries, and they're actually closer than they like to admit. They're very much closer than they like to admit. And they don't have a history of hurting the world in any major scale. Neither does China. Unfortunately, France and UK do, but this is the turning point in 1941. This, the Atlantic Charter, never ever afforded to any Canadian, locked away in the highest library of the UK, released limited to the UN, but of course, 2 of those powers wanted to keep that hidden. Most of the former Axis and colonials do not want this released, not to the general public, because they're scared it will destabilize peace and security for countries like Canada, New Zealand, Australia, when people wake up to the fact that they've been fucked right over by their own government. Their own government is abusing the hell out of them exactly like Nazi Germany. You all felt that in COVID. It rekindled the idea that there's something very, very wrong. Left or right, wherever you come from, you all know there's something very wrong with how the government has behaved and performed throughout COVID. It's been one extreme to another that it only can be accounted for pure autocracy, not found since Nazi Germany or other colonial countries with heinous atrocities, just like what's happened to the First Nations by the government by that governmental system tied to absolute colonialism, which Germany got. Hitler got the same power. He took it. He took it because the monarch turned it over, and he became the supreme chancellor, just as I promised to do, but in opposite of Hitler. I'm going to give all the power to you, the people. For the first time in world history, that's what the CCP will do. But we'll continue on. Now I got to find page 5. Oh no, 5th. They desire to bring about the fullest collaboration between all nations in the economic field with the object of securing for all improved labor standards, economic advancement, and social security. Are you feeling that, Canadians and First Nations? Does any of that sound like that's happened for any of you? Is your lives better now than they were 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Is it easier for the next generation to come along, or very much harder? Does it sound like something Canada's embraced? Are they following the World Allies at this point? The Atlantic Charter kept from all of you? 6th, after the final destruction of the Nazi tyranny, they hope to see established a peace which will afford to all nations the same of nations the means of dwelling in safety within their own boundaries, the law of sovereignty, and which will afford assurance that all men in all lands may live their lives in freedom from fear and want. Does that feel like you have, Canadians, fear and you don't have to want for nothing? First Nations, how does it feel for you? Do you feel the sovereignty of the Atlantic Charter, made in none other than Newfoundland by the world's superpowers, and the end of the crown that you've been holding on to in your treaties and even in not treaties or unceded, that the Canadian government swears by? The crown is still around, they say. Well, where's this by King George VI? Where's this? 7th, such a peace should enable all men to transverse the high seas and oceans without hindrance. Hey, Canada, are we able to trade all of our products within all territories out on the open seas to all world markets? Does Canada let us do that? Do provinces block each other from doing that? Uh-oh. First Nations, are you allowed to harvest your resources and trade them out on the world stage? Uh-oh. 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 None of this sounds anything like Canada. 1941. Canada was an ally. The UNSCP 5 absolutely run the world. The Allies won, and the UNSC, at least the 3, established this. It's backed up in international law. So why is there still an NWO UN out there? Who's leading that? Canada has the G40 cities, New Zealand, Australia in there too. We even have a hijack from the Five Eyes. What are USA and UK going to do about it? And if you're all worried about Joe Biden and Boris Johnson, we're going to go through the second round of the reaffirmation of this just 3 weeks ago at the G7, where Trudeau shit his pants and flipped out and shit all over BC, saying, you pray whatever you want, crying like a baby. He was absolutely terrified that world media couldn't be bought by the Liberals, Conservatives, and NDP on taxpayer third-class monies. And he did. He won them. He even hired his own writers. We see that in the New York Times. He's hired his own writers. Nobody heard any of this. You didn't even hear that Boris Johnson and Joe Biden reaffirmed and signed this agreement once more. They reactivated. The Allies have been reactivated. The work we're on here with CCP, Canadian Constitutionalist Party, we've absolutely reactivated the Allies. That presentation you all should have been able to watch. And that goes into the absolute law of sovereignty and ending genocidal maniacs like Canada. The Allies are awoke, and I have 4 of them now. I have Boris Johnson, Joe Biden, Xi Jinping, and absolutely Vladimir Putin. Almost there, halfway. We're halfway because I have to officially see either Putin say it or I got to get one of the UNSC reps to say it. We're not quite there yet, but his ministries are all moving. At least the 85 regions are moving. Putin's going to have to say something shortly, I'm sure. Let's hope we hear from it. But where NDP's at with the church and the lower ministry here of Russia, I'm not going to disclose what I'm up to, but in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to blow the absolute socks off the Facebook world. I'm absolutely going to blow the socks off everybody live and in first person. But this is all the build-up, everybody. This is to get you all into what exactly the world really is and what Canada isn't. The enemy is not out. The enemy is right here in Canada. That's a fact, ladies and gentlemen. And there's no Facebook taking me down. There's no CNN, New York Times, Fox News, and the rest of the garbage media in Canada, bought and paid for by pure autocrats, betraying President Joe Biden, as they probably did Trump too. I'd have to go back now and start looking at writers and seeing a lot of this work it's gotten pivotal. I was scared of UK. I was, everybody. It was kind of left last on my list as I'm afraid of France too, because they're colonial powers. I don't know. Are they in this? So far, 4 powers are not in bed with this, are not in bed with NWO, and absolutely are activating as the allies they are. And the American media, the Canadian media, won't say one word about it. Not one word. That's even against President Joe Biden. And I have him in absolute right here. And when a president signs a signature and puts his pen to paper, Joe Biden did remember. And for those loyal followers following me, remember I said months ago, will Joe Biden remember? Was he young enough to remember that? I mean, he's in his 70s. Donald Trump should too, and he did remember a lot. And boom, Joe Biden proves he does. He's Irish. He remembers. He knows what his grandparents taught him and his parents. His parents went to war. He knows. He remembered. He re-signed this. 8, they believe that all of the nations of the world, for realistic as well as spiritual reasons, must come to the abandonment of the use of force, since no future peace can be maintained if land area or I gotta get to the next one. I gotta find the next page. There's 3. Here it is. Or air armaments continue to be employed by nations which threaten or may threaten aggression outside of their frontiers. They believe, pending the establishment of a wider and more permanent system of general security. United Nations Security Council, 1941, born right here, absolute. And I'm going to go into more with China and how that came about. That disarmament of such nations is essential. They will likewise aid and encourage all other practicable measures which will lighten for peace-loving people the crushing burden of armaments. Signed, Franklin Roosevelt, D. Roosevelt, and Prime Minister Sir Winston Churchill. End quotes, end part 3, and end White 23, whatever that means. That is the original charter. This is the original document. The handwritings are there. I can't fake this. There's no way I would add that stamp. I wouldn't do that. That's not me. I don't care what anyone says. This is truth. This is absolute. Now we're just going to jump and we're going to go into what Biden and Boris Johnson signed 3 weeks ago at the G7 that sent Trudeau shitting his pants, as is now O'Toole, who has his lip zipped, doesn't say a word because he's a chicken shit. The New Atlantic Charter. Today, the President of the United States and Prime Minister of the United Kingdom reaffirm their commitment to work together to realize their vision for a more peaceful and prosperous future. Our revitalized Atlantic Charter, building on the commitments and aspirations set out 80 years ago, affirms our ongoing commitment to sustaining our enduring values and defending them against new and old challenges. New and old. Canada's the new one, guys. We commit to working closely with all partners who share our democratic values and to countering the efforts of those who seek to undermine our alliances and institutions. Who would that be? First, we resolve to defend the principles, values, institutions of democracy and open societies which drive our own national strength and our alliances. We must ensure that democracy, starting with our own, can deliver on solving the critical challenges of our time. We will champion transparency, uphold rule of law, support civil society, and independent media. Independent media. We will also confront injustice and inequality and defend inherent dignity and human rights of all individuals. First Nations, Canadians, do you like the sound of what you're hearing so far? Ratified, absolutely. June 22nd, 2021. Go look at the great monumental news story, the greatest news story in modern time after nearly 80 years. And do they say anything about it? Not one miserable word. Not one. Second, we intend to strengthen the institution, laws, and norms that sustain international cooperation to adapt them to meet new challenges of the 21st century and guard against those that would undermine them. We will work through rule-based international order to tackle global challenges together, embrace the promise and manage the peril of emerging technologies, promote economic advancement and dignity of work. There's the labor again. Enable open and fair trade between all nations. Third, we remain united behind the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the peaceful resolution of disputes. We oppose interference through disinformation or malign influences, including in elections, and reaffirm our commitment to debt transparency, sustainability, and sound government of debt relief. So too we defend the key principles such as freedom of navigation and overflight and other internationally lawful uses of the seas. Canada, does any of this so far sound like anything you've heard about Donald Trump or Joe Biden? Because this is an amalgamation, a reaffirmation, and a new charter. Does this sound like we the people made this? Does this sound anything like your Canada or the media left or right you hear? Whether that's the radical right or the radical left media narratives? Does any of that sound like anything you're reading in the reaffirmed charter, signed, sealed, certified 3 weeks ago by Joe Biden and Boris Johnson? Does any of this sound like anything you've heard in the media? Why didn't they cover this? Why? Fourth, we resolve to harness and protect our innovative edge in science and technology to support our shared security and deliver jobs at home, to open new markets, to promote the development and deployment of new standards, and technologies to support democratic values, to continue to invest in research into the biggest challenges facing the world, and to foster sustainable global development. Sustainable global development, not goals, not UN General Assembly. Fifth, we affirm our shared responsibility for maintaining collective security and international stability and resilience against the full spectrum of modern threats, including cyber threats, which, for all of you scared out there, it's a real big right narrative. I can tell you right now, I watched Russian USA. I was live with that. They're taking over the cyber security. They're working together. So is UK, and so are the absolute woke allies. Now, China has got to get in there, and we don't know yet about France, but Russia and USA are together on this 100%. This is outside This charter reaffirms that UK is going to get involved, but Russia and USA have already made a pact. They're not going to let the General Assembly, UN states, fuck around with cybersecurity anymore. I'm sorry, that's the truth. I have USA, Vladimir Putin, and Joe Biden signing on to that together, and I have this Atlantic Charter 3 weeks ago of Joe Biden and Boris Johnson signing on. Absolutely crushing the fear of the alt-right about cybersecurity and the threats, right? I've read all that and how it's the NWO. They see it too, everybody. They're crushing it. They're crushing it right now. Together. Fifth, we affirm our shared responsibility to maintain our collective security and international stability and resilience against full spectrum of modern threats, including cyber. Okay, I read that. I'm sorry. Now I got to find the other page, the last page of that. Too bad the email didn't go in order, everybody. I apologize. Okay, wait, that's not it. I better have my page 2. I did send it. It should be here. Yikes, I'm getting freaked out. Maybe it's way at the beginning. Yeah, it was way at the beginning. Okay. Defensive NATO, as long as they're... Okay, fifth, we affirm our shared responsibility. Okay, this is the other part of it. After cyber threats, same fifth. We have declared our nuclear deterrence to the defense of NATO. As long as there are nuclear weapons, NATO will remain a nuclear alliance. Our NATO allies and partners will always be able to count on us, even as they continue to strengthen their own national forces. We pledge to promote the framework of responsible state behavior in cyberspace, arms control, disarmament, and proliferation prevention measures to reduce the risk of international conflict. We remain committed to countering terrorists who threaten our citizens and interests. Now, that's not even great for Canada, but that's reality. This has always been there. 6, we commit to continue to build inclusive, fair, climate-friendly, sustainable, rules-based global economy for the 21st century. We will strengthen financial stability and transparency, fight corruption and illicit finance, and innovate and complete through high labor and high environmental standards. Let's see how that goes. Let's see how the world goes. We already know USA's leading on it. We already know they're using nuclear proliferation, so it doesn't hurt them. UK's got the winds that actually work and can use nuclear too. All 5 can. It's the rest of the world that can't. And how is that going to work out for us? I don't like that one. I don't like that addition, but that's reality. The 5 are going to take whatever they want because they can. There's not much we can do about except for recognize we can't proliferate. We can't have the same equivalency in advanced nuclear reactors, which means we have to pull back. We have to follow Russia, who gives a good narrative for us. That's true. 7th, the world has reached a critical point where it must act urgently and ambitiously to tackle climate crisis. This stuff is Joe Biden and Boris Johnson. Protect biodiversity, which is important, and sustain nature, which is important. Our countries will prioritize these issues with all our international action. 8, we recognize the catastrophic impact of health crises and the global good in strengthening our collective defenses against health threats. We commit to continuing to collaborate to strengthen health systems and advance our health protections to assist others to do the same. And it's signed Joseph R. Biden Jr., Boris Johnson, MP. The last 2 I don't necessarily like, but that is not a rules based on your country. That's what they've affirmed together, and they're going to push in the world. We already know that's happening. They're going to keep pushing it. What is important and the big takeaway is our absolute right to sovereignty, full self-government, self-determination. Canadians don't have it. Indigenous definitely don't have it. First Peoples, Métis, Inuit, and absolutely all First Nation designations. You don't have it. Canadian third class, second class, don't have it. We don't even have regional constitutionalism. First Nations will never be successful. Neither will Canadians across this country till we get constitutionalism. And you need the best minds in the world. We need to take these publications and use them for our benefit, which is freedom. Everything you need. Not everything in this is going to be for everybody, but that is for you as your own sovereign nation and peoples to decide through constitutionalism. And these 5 will respect that. You have a simple conversation. Joe Biden, Boris Johnson, Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin already gets this. Xi Jinping, Emmanuel Macron. We are a non-proliferated state. We signed that in the 60s. We can't compete with you on these narratives. We need to access foreign markets. We need to go with what we can produce so that we do have fair labor, fair understanding. We can't be under the boot. Simple conversation, simple reality, present the facts, and they'll understand. Russia does. The others will too. But when you get greasy, slimy politicians that allow them to walk right over you, they will. They don't care about your country. That's your sovereign problem. This is reality. It's up to all of you, and we can do this in one federal election. Now let's go into other things I didn't go through. Anyone who wants to read about anything that I presented about the USA in this charter, you can go to Sir Winston Churchill's Second World War, The Hinge of Fate. That volume, 1 of 6, read that entirely. All this is backed up there, absolutely, in his memoirs. But now I got the official documents from the highest institutions. But all of it's backed up. Hinge of Fate. There's even more on the USSR, which we're going to get into right now. So, Moscow Conference of 1942, as I showed you all, there's Sir Winston Churchill, and there's Joseph Stalin. What was in there? Well, that's when Sir Winston Churchill gave resources to USSR, so USSR would fight in the war and align with Britain and free the British, which they did. They were one of the allies. They even helped and monumentally defeated Japan at the end. Massive push, most. Now I'm going to show you some more that they call the Big Three. And some people got mad about one particular Sir Winston Churchill post. Hope I sent it. It must be way... Oh, here it is. Churchill's role, photographs. See those 3 individuals? Why, right there. Churchill, Roosevelt, Stalin. Courtyard of Levidia Palace, 9th of February, 1945. That's Yalta Conference. That is the UN and the UN Charter. The Big Three. People were mad. He was also criticized for his past acceptance of Soviet domination of Poland and Eastern Europe, which is its own atrocity. That's a separate issue. But the reality is the Soviet Union saved UK. And the UK had to make a deal to end colonialism forever. Now I'm going to go into some other important things. In the Constitution of Canada, through that, and absolutely by Governor General, we get into the Indian Act. Section 2, under 114, the Minister may, in accordance with this Act, establish, operate, and maintain schools for Indian children. This went all the way through to 2014, ladies and gentlemen. You know that minister is provincial and federal, right? Education's provincial. Every party in Canada up to modern times, and even when the federal government transferred the power entirely to provincial social services, the atrocities have continued. Ugly, genocidal atrocities. Every single political party. And this is the official constitution and this act, the Indian Act, right now today. Right now today. C and D are repealed, okay? See that kind of at the bottom? C and D repealed. That was repealed in 2014. Meaning, when you hear what C and D are, that continued all the way up to 2014. But remember that charter I told you about? And then there's the 1945 where Joseph Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill, plus China, plus France, all established UN and the world votes unanimously for the UNSC 5 powers. Does this sound like something that's being allowed to be in Canada in 2014? The minister may provide and make regulations with respect to standards for buildings, equipment, teaching, education, inspection, and discipline in connection with schools. This is residential schools under the Indian Act, Section 115 under regulations. Any provincial or federal minister. Provide for the transportation of children to and from school, meaning they can go apprehend the children. This is in right now. It's not appealed. It's not appealed, you guys. It's still there. The government can still take the children anytime they want. Armed. Now you guys want to hear what it was before 2014? The first two are still there. The atrocious language that is absolutely from Nazi Germany. It's what they did to the Jews. This is written in your Indian Act right now, and it's legally constitutional in the country called Canada, in every province and territory in Canada. Jason Kenney can murder Indian kids as much as he wants through his Minister of Education. Justin Trudeau can too, through his Minister of Social Services, Family and Social Services. They can rape, maim, murder, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. They took out Hitler for that. But apparently conservatives, liberals, and NDP can continue this entirely forever. Now China says, end it now, Canada, or we're going to end you on the world stage. We're going to end you. And do you think, for 1 minute, after what you just read of Boris Johnson and Joe Biden reactivating an 80-year-old agreement, and you read what they said about sovereignty and self-determination, the rights to your family, all of it, which is nothing like Canada, do you think they're going to vote against China, a resolution we're all going to put forward? No, they're not. I got to find the C and D that have been alive and well up until 2014. They were repealed in 2014 only. Got to hear this. The first two send shivers down your spine, but the next two, got to find it. Why did it go out of order? And I hope I have it. Here we go. Nope, that's that one repealed. Here it is entirely. So now, here's the original right there. See how there's A, B, C, D? This is what was 2014 and every year previous. Enter into agreements with religious organizations for support and maintenance of children who are being educated in schools operated by those organizations. The church was absolutely understate. Everybody, the church was carrying out the wishes of the ministries, federally, territorially, and provincially. Any premier could do whatever he wanted to any of the Indian kids anytime he wanted. He mandated the church to rape, murder, sexually and physically and emotionally and culturally destroy these children. If they didn't kill themselves or die from injuries at the hands of government officials, and absolutely the church is, it's not just Catholic here, we have 3 of them. Then we got the industrial schools that no one even talks about. That's C. That's been alive all the way up to 2014, you guys. In Canada, constitutionally, and a part of the Indian Act, and a power of every provincial, territorial, and federal government. Even municipalities enacted it. Think of that. Think of that. Right out of Nazi Germany, you guys. You can read what Hitler introduced in his acts on the Jews, his bills. You can find the same language there. But that's in the 30s and early 40s. How is it a country like Canada still has it alive and well, 2014, and even the first 2, A and B? But let's get to D. D. Apply the whole or any part of monies that would otherwise be payable to or on behalf of a child who's attending a residential school to the maintenance of that child at that school. Meaning taxpayers would fund the church, the government workers. We were funding the rape, pillage, and plunder of Indigenous children. We were funding the murder of Indigenous children, the sexual, physical assaults of children. Absolutely. Now, the government's hidden this stuff. They pulled in 2014. Shh. Don't want anyone to know this stuff. Never going to get nothing by me, turd boy. O'Toole, you piece of shit. And Jagmeet Singh, another degenerate motherfucker. You guys are sick, perverted. And everybody should share this stuff. Because I'm telling you, this is alive and well today. Easily traced. It's all done. ICC looks at rogue regimes from Nazi Germany onward. And every time they see this language, and every time I pull it from a province, we find out who the premier was, who the ministers, which MPs, which MLAs voted for it, who passed it, who wrote it, which privy council, which provincial ministry, which territorial ministry. I'm not worried about someone coming and bumping me off, people. The ICC will do this regardless, with or without me. The government can't do anything to me or any of you over this. This is already well logged. If a guy with no budget, with just a mind and a background, with some pretty awesome experts, can start to look at this as it really is and find the stuff so easily, what do you suppose the ICC will do? They just need somebody to keep pumping it to them. Do you really think Joe Biden, Boris Johnson, Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, and Emmanuel Macron are going to vote against white, wealthy politicians who are raping, murdering, and killing Indigenous kids to commit a genocide, unlike everything we've seen from all colonial powers, from Germany all the way to today? We watch all the African nations. I just had my friend of mine, through all the work I've been doing in the last 4 years. 2 years ago, I was in early career scholars, and I got a doctorate student. He was in his last year of doctorate, and he lives in a poor region in Africa. I'm not going to say. His name is Philippe, and he's African. He's African guy. We got put in a group together, and here I am, not even a law student, right? And we went through a bunch, and now he's a doctor. He's Dr. Law in Africa. He's a doctorate, and he's a pretty intelligent guy. He'll be teaching for Ethiopia. That's what's going to happen. He's going to be one of the top in Ethiopia. And he writes, why are Africans like this? And I just answered him, well, why was Canada, New Zealand, and Australia like that? It's not about humanity, but colonialism. It's not about left and right narratives or crazy regimes. It's the fact when you abuse people so bad. So Canadians and First Nations, the reason why I'm going to deliver you constitutionalism, and why I'm not writing any constitution or creating a party that's going to write a constitution, or why I've left independence for Alberta, or the idea of it, because nobody who's institutionalized in these kinds of systems escape without even going massive socialist or absolutely buck wild, crazy extremist. Either way, there's genocides on both sides. You need to be weaned out of the system. First Nations, you're no different. If I just let you run away with the chiefs in this system, you'll end up killing each other your own, and you'll be committing the same atrocities just as Africans. Canadians will do it too. They'll continue to pick groups. They'll take the power that the former government had. We need to write constitutionalism. You, the people, have to do it. And we have to guard against and put up great barriers from politicians coming in and stealing your rights and freedoms away from you, to allow you to develop all on your own with zero foreign influences. A system in place where it doesn't matter what elected dumbbell you hire, but everybody, whether it's a dumbbell or a tyrant. Look at Hitler. That was an intelligent tyrant who's much like myself learned the system very well, very knowledgeable, could learn things fast, and he used that power for his own sick needs. That's not me. That's not what they're going to try to portray that, but it's all about all of you and getting the right narrative. And that's not by me, not by any party I could build, only delivering a build and winning that election to deliver all the world experts in every narrative, every example or question you could ask by the top presenters who for a living teach at the highest academic level in the world, who will get all of you. They'll be paid out of that 140 million, hundreds of them in every minority language to give you all the tremendous presentations, region by region. I know I repeat that, but it's important, everybody. You get that, we can fix not only the First Nations, we can fix all of Canada as well too. Get absolute settlement and never have to worry about ever electing a dumbbell or a tyrant ever again, because all the systems, checks and balances and protections were put in place by you, the people, by the best experts who know constitutionalism from every country. They studied them all, and they're all there, paid resource for all of you. And they will be a fantastic thing, never ever done in the world. We don't need revolution, we need evolution. The Five would like to see evolution. You don't have to be commie, you don't have to be Republican, you don't have to be Democratic. You guys all go through it, and you'll make the best decisions when you see all the presentations, the comparatives of law internationally, what people made, what decisions, what that led to, countries' failures, their successes. You will all get your questions answered. It won't be me. As knowledgeable as I am, there are men and women in this world for a living who do this, who teach the greatest future of the world. And we can take them all. We can pay them to come for a 6-month period and iron out all of it individually for absolutely all of you. Now, is there anything else I should go through? So we went through that constitutional problematic piece that's inside the Indian Act still today. Completely Nazi, completely illegal worldwide, a complete human rights violation by none other than the government, alive and well today. The last disgusting portions removed in 2014. But still, the first two are bad enough. They're outlawed worldwide. How is Canada able, the government able, to commit human rights atrocities to that magnitude? I think the rest of it pretty much. Okay, so now this is the UK entirely. I gave you guys the presentation by absolutely Boris Johnson, word for word, and the House of Lords, the Parliament. This is what the UK wants to give to you. Verifiable, 100%. Boris Johnson, Prime Minister of UK, and absolutely the House of Lords. The Queen remains the head of the British state, the highest representative of the United Kingdom on the national and international stage. The head of the British government, however, is the Prime Minister. One serves as a symbol for the country, and the other serves as the chief executive of the government. Is Canada somehow different than what Boris Johnson... They're asking here. This is a question to all of you. In her role as head of state, Queen Elizabeth gives regular speech at the opening of each new parliament and makes official appearances and speeches on holidays and special occasions. The Queen keeps in close contact with the Prime Minister and is regularly briefed on all important national matters. But never, guys ready for this? Never publicly weighs in on political debates, nor any final decision is up to her. So, what? UK ends its monarchy, but Canada's like, oh, that's okay. She's the Queen. It's all her fault. What Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh, Aaron O'Toole, and all the atrocities, it was the Queen's fault. Even though she's not allowed to make any decisions at all. She's not allowed to govern Canada at all. What in the fuck, people? Share it. share, and I'm sorry, but share this most important video. This by Boris Johnson and the House of Lords Parliament. Go pick up the phone, call any one of them and ask them today. Ask them today. And then ask, well, is Canada allowed to? You go, what are you talking about? Are you high? They don't realize this stuff. They're just figuring it out. And you start looking at, and it's like, but the Queen never, ever does anything for Canada. Hasn't since the 30s. What are you talking about? Since her ascension, she hasn't even had anything to do legally in Canada's governance. So why are we going through it? Why is Trudeau, why is the Governor General saying, oh, the Queen sent me all this, did all this? No, she didn't. She most certainly did not. She is absolutely 100% forbidden from making any decisions on Governor General. It's been this way since 1952. Absolutely. So why is the government lying? Well, it's easier to be a tyrant like Hitler and do whatever you want and have all your premiers fully autocratic, doing whatever they want. Just make the Governor General happy. Don't push us around the federal house of power, provincial house of power. Let's rape, pillage, and plunder all the people. We get rich. We exploit the taxpayer. The worst kind of autocracy. Way worse than any China. Way worse than Russia, civil law. Way worse than U.S., obviously. Way worse than most nations of the world, except for the absolute pure dictator, rogue UN states who are NWO. All tyrants, the worst of the worst. Which you all know this, search your souls. You know it. You talk about it all the time. Dictator oil. Why does Canada do that? Why does Canada do this? Why does this party embrace that? One says they're against it, but when they get elected, Conservatives, when they get elected, they absolutely do the opposite of what they say, and they become Trudeau 2.0. They do. Stephen Harper proved it. He did monumentally worse things than Trudeau did. Trudeau's just going, well, I'm going to do more. You think I'm going to let Harper out rip off the people? I'm going to rip off more. I'm going to rape them hard. I'm going to put so much debt upon them, there's no escape. Venezuela did this. A lot of people got filthy rich in Venezuela while all the people were running as refugees. How long until Canadians are all refugees, First Nations? And then who gets all the land then, right? We can't let this narrative continue. We must destroy Trudeau, Liberals, Conservatives, O'Toole, NDP, Singh, Bloc, Yves. Goes on and on and on, everybody. They are all 100% first-class citizens defined by the Constitution, ready to steal everything from you. That's reality. Now I'm going to go into questions. Something's fried with the phone. I might have to do a part 3 and log on with the other device. I don't know why. Unless it's like, I don't know what's going on with the internet here. I feel so bad. I'm going to end up having to do another. It's showing each of you like it's just logged on, logged on, logged on. It's the same person over and over and over. So there's something wrong with the system. I'm going to finish, start again, absolutely in just 1 minute on another device. I'm going to try that, okay, everybody? And it's absolutely 100% part 3 Q&A. I apologize. Share all the videos. They're all great. It's really sad because the reality is one video with a monumental amount is always the best. I don't like partial videos getting shared. It really sucks. But what do? That's her. Both tremendous videos, part 1, part 2, and I'm going to do part 3 Q&A. For all of you, line up your questions. I'll give it that minute to let people log on. Thanks, everybody. Sorry, but you should see, I've never seen this before. It's like each of you is just like miles of it. It won't work. Okay, see you soon.